Okay, we're going to be going over the philosophy of Immanuel Kant, and Kant is going to be picking up on where David Hume left off. Remember, David Hume has left off giving us a philosophy where if we cannot find the sense impression of whatever term we use, whatever concept we have, if we cannot find the immediate sense impression, then that concept we have, that term that we use, is not really known to us. Okay? So this is a big problem for words like honor, justice, cause, effect, love, right? We use these words all the time. But the problem is, like, especially with the word cause. Cause. Where's the immediate sense impression? Right? Can you think of the immediate sense impression, like did you burn your finger on a stove and you said cause? All right, that's where I got the word cause from. All right, that's where I got this concept. No. Right? You could do that for hotness, like, you have the concept of what it is to be hot, but you could trace that back to going in the front of the sun or burning your finger on the stove. But you can't really do that with this. And you can't do that with justice. And you can't do that with honor. But yet we use these words like we know them. Like we know them for sure. Now, Kant has a real big problem, especially with this idea of causality, cause and effect, which you can see on page 516 and 517 is where Kant is dealing with this. He's explaining the problem that Hume has left us. Okay? Because Kant is a scientist, he's a philosopher. He wants to know, and he wants a philosophy that says, yeah, you can know things. Science is all about finding causes. Your life is all about finding causes. We're finding causes all the time. We're finding the cause of something. When we find the cause of something, we think we figured something out. We have some knowledge going on, right? But with Hume's philosophy, that means nothing. Because he's saying you can't know this term here. Because you can't find the sense impression. So cause and effect is a big problem. Knowing a cause and effect. That is science. Science is finding out about causes. Okay, so Hume is explaining this problem to everybody because not everybody gets, at the time, not everybody understands. A lot of people did, especially the people who were not buying into the modern philosophy that was started by Descartes. But some of the people who were buying into the modern philosophy started by Descartes, they didn't really get the problem that David Hume has left. David Hume has left a problem where he's left off with a philosophy saying that you can't do philosophy, that you can't really know things. That's the philosophy that he's left off. You can't know causes, so you can't do investigation, right? You can't find out things. So this is what Immanuel Kant is explaining on page 516 and 517. Of course, he's doing it with a lot more detail on these pages than what I'm telling you right now, but that's the big picture. And so how this is normally formulated is with something called Hume's fork. Okay. Because Kant is gonna explain the problem in detail, okay, and you're gonna see he's gonna break it down on page 520, 521 in the textbook, and on page 520 we have something called an analytical judgment. So there's these two types of judgments that can be made here. This is Hume's fork. This is what Hume has left us with. There's an analytical judgment, and then there's a synthetical judgment. Okay. The synthetical judgment is on page 521. But first, let's deal with this first type of judgment. It is the analytical judgment. Now, if you look in that first paragraph, it gives an example of an analytical judgment. It is triangles have 3 angles. So I'm going to write that here. Let me get rid of this one while we do this. Triangles have 3 angles. So that's my proposition, okay? That's my sentence. Okay, so let capitalize. That's my sentence. Triangles have 3 angles. That's one type of judgment. A judgment is just some... a judgment in itself is something that you make just in your mind. Okay, when I write it down, it becomes a proposition. So a proposition is a representation of a judgment that you're making in your mind. So here's the first type of judgment. Triangles have 3 angles. This is analytical according to Kant. Okay, according to Hume, right? Because he's explaining what Hume is proposing here. Because he doesn't necessarily disagree with the fundamentals of what Hume has said. Listen, Hume has accepted the hyperbolic doubt of René Descartes. The doubt that says you cannot trust sense experience. Okay, Hume has also accepted this hyperbolic doubt. Okay, this is what makes him a true modern philosopher. Okay, so when they see a marker in front of their face like this, like for Aristotle and for St. Thomas Aquinas, the marker in front of your face was the thing that you know for sure. So if you're going to do any type of science or argument, you better base it off what you can see. Right? You base it off this immediately self-evident stuff. Right? So the marker that I see right now is immediately self-evident. I know that more than I know anything else. Yes, and I know the marker more than I know that my mom loves me. Right? I know the marker more than I know any of these other arguments that we can make. Even some of these mathematical arguments. This marker right here, I know more than that. It's right here in front of my face. Right? That's the old view. Kant doesn't believe that either, just like Hume. They don't think that this is immediately self-evident. Okay? So they're all accepting the hyperbolic doubt of René Descartes. Okay? So they're all agree on that. Okay? But they have disagreements. Okay? And Kant's disagreement with Hume is what we're going to go over right now. So basically, what Hume has left us is we have an analytical judgment, which is triangles have 3 angles. Now look at this. For Kant and for Hume, this statement right here, triangles have 3 angles. I mean, if you know what a triangle is, don't you already know it has 3 angles? Right? I mean, even look at the word here, triangles. Right? If you know what a triangle is, you know it has 3 angles. This statement right here, the ancients or Aristotle would have said this is self-evident. Okay, but for Hume and these modern philosophers like Hume and Kant, this is analytical. Okay, it is certain. It is 100%. It's certain. Well, I don't want to say 100% because there's nothing 100% as soon as you accept the hyperbolic doubt. So it's certain. But it also does not give you new information. So no new information. Okay? So that's a problem if we just have these type of statements. Why? Because if we're doing science or you're in a college class, don't you want to learn new things? Right? What if you go in your math class and the teacher says, okay, I'm gonna give you a bunch of certain knowledge today, but you're not going to learn anything new. Right? That's a problem. You want certain, in other words, you want reliable information, things that are true, but you also want new information. You want to learn things. Right? So with an analytical judgment, you have certainty but no new information. Why no new information? Because what they say, they ultimately end up calling these things tautologies, because they just say like you're repeating yourself. Okay, because if triangles have three angles, so this part have three angles is just like saying triangle. Okay, which in this instance works pretty good, because three angles, if you know tri and angles right here, it's actually in the roots of the word. Okay. But I mean, you can use a different word for triangle, like from another language, and they would still say it is analytical and that you're not getting new information because you're just repeating yourself. Okay. So no new information. This is an extreme break from the old ways of learning. Okay? Because for the ancients, for all the people before, this type of statement is self-evident. In other words, it is a type of statement by which you build other statements upon, because it is certain, because it's a foundation. So for the people before Hume and Kant, this type of statement right here is a foundational statement. It is something that you start building arguments upon, okay, because the certainty of it. But for Kant and Hume, this thing right here, it's certain, but it's not giving new information. Okay, so for the old people, it was giving new information, because if you don't know what a triangle is, then this is new to you. You just learned something, right? So that is the analytical judgment. Okay, now we're going to get on to the synthetic. So the synthetic judgment, you can see on page 521, it says the door at the top. He gives an example, okay? This is the editor of the book is given an example from Kant. So an example of a synthetical statement is the door is brown. The door is brown. Now this is synthetic or synthetical. Okay, so this is new information right here. Okay, let's say you walk in a house and you just find out that the door is brown in that house that you're walking in. That's new information for you. Okay, new information. Does the door have to be brown? No, I mean, do you know, have you seen doors that are not brown? Of course you have. A door can be blue, red, yellow, it doesn't matter. It's whatever. It could be whatever color that somebody paints it. It doesn't have to be brown. Okay? So what we have here is we have new information, because you didn't know that before you actually saw the door, or somebody told you about the color of the door. You didn't know. The reason you didn't know is because it's not necessary that the door is brown. Okay? So we have two things right now. This synthetical statement is it's not certain. I'm going to put certain, but you can also say it's not necessary. It's not certain, and it has new information. It is new information. So it gives new information, but it's not certain. You see the fork that we're in right now? With the analytical, okay, I'm going to erase this. With the analytical statement, what did we have? Did we have something that was certain? Yes. It was certain. But there was no new info. No new information. But with the synthetic statement, we have not certain, but we have new information. Oops. We have new info. So this is what Hume has left us, according to Kant. We have two things here. We have a statement here, certain, no new info, and then we have a statement here, it's not certain, but there's new info. What a conundrum we're in, right? We're kind of stuck. We got these statements right here, but they're not certain. Listen, you don't want to know anything not certain. Listen, if you're in a class of math or science or philosophy or something, and the teacher is teaching you things, and he's saying, like, okay, we're going to do this equation here, but just keep in mind, I don't know whether this thing's true or not. This isn't certain that you actually do it this way, or that this works. So you don't want to build a bridge with this equation, okay? I'm just going to show it to you anyways. You would probably be thinking like, whoa, what are you showing this for if it's not certain, right? You want new info, but you want it to be certain. So we're in a pickle here. This is why it's the fork, okay? So what Kant is going to say is what we need is an analytical statement that is also synthetical. Okay, we need both of these. Okay. Another word, so what Kant is going to say is we need a synthetic a priori judgment. Synthetic a priori. This word right here is a Latin word. It just means prior. A priori is something known prior to experience. This is hard to understand what I'm going to tell you right now. A priori means something known prior to experience. Therefore, it has certainty because it's not dependent on experience. That's where the certainty would come from. Okay? So you're going to understand that more in a little bit. But this is a type of, in other words, he's saying we need a synthetic, let me separate this. He's saying we need a synthetic a priori judgment. In other words, a synthetic analytical judgment. You know, combination. We need a combo. We need a judgment that has both of these things in it. Okay? So we need a statement that is synthetical and analytical. Why? Because it would be certain and have new information, which is what we need in order to learn things and do science and do anything. We need statements that are certain and where we're getting new information. Okay, so moving on, I mean, you see this. Let's see here. We need a synthetic a priori. And Kant is going to go through this on page 522, 523. So I recommend you browse through these sections. Okay, but just bear in mind, this is very difficult reading here. That's why I'm summarizing it for you and just pointing out the important parts that you should know. Okay, so something else that Kant is going to do, how he's going to accomplish this, how he's going to come up with this synthetic a priori statement is that he is going to turn the table on the current thinking that is going on at this point. Okay. Kant is going to do something. He's going to have, like, like similar to Copernicus. Copernicus's revolution. Kant is going to have his own revolution. He's going to have his own breakthrough. Okay. In times past, when we're looking at the world, I mean, this is Kant right here. When we're looking at the world, you know, we here's my person right here, and he's looking at the way, and he sees a tree over here, right? He sees a chair. Okay, this guy sees a chair. He sees a tree. The old way, how we're normally used to thinking about this, is that the tree and the chair are outside of us, right? And they're the greenness and the chair, the idea of the chair, all the qualities and quantities that go along with being a chair, the weight, all this stuff that we see. We're normally used to thinking that when we look at the world, we see these things, they're impressing themselves upon our mind, right? And we're noticing that there's a bunch of trees out there and they have the same qualities, but they're really out there. Like this tree is similar to this tree. They all have these same qualities, right? There's something out there. It's outside of our mind. And our mind is just trying to conform and trying to understand the realities outside our mind. That's the old way right there. What Kant is going to say is that what's really going on is that we are imposing categories and concepts from our mind onto the world. Okay, I know this is difficult to understand right here, but you have to just follow me on this. Kant is saying that we have categories and concepts already in our mind to start with. Okay, we didn't get these from the world. We didn't get these from experience. Okay, of course, Aristotle would say our concepts that we have, we learn that we form them from experience of the world. That's what Aristotle and Aquinas would say. Kant is saying, no, you already got them in your mind. So you have these concepts. These are the two biggest ones right here. You have the concepts of space and time already in your mind. Okay? And how you do mathematics and how you know things of mathematics, 2 + 2 = 4 and all this stuff, is you already have these concepts in your mind, space and time. And your mind is imposing these categories onto the world. Okay? Because space and time are already in your mind. Okay? That makes them certain. This is the analytical part of this synthetic a priori statement. These are a priori, in other words. This is the a priori part. Right? You already have this stuff in your mind. Okay? So if you start looking at some apples or you start doing some math on the board, you are going to be projecting these concepts already onto whatever physical thing that you're doing out here in the world. That's the a priori, the certainty of the judgments that we're going to make. That's where the certainty comes from. Okay? But he's not finished yet. Because if you look on page 527, or rather, top of page 528, besides space and time, we also have these categories. It says at the top, these are pure concepts of the transcendental table of the pure concepts of the understanding. These categories. So we also have, see, look at this. As to quantity, we have unity, plurality, totality. We have these concepts, these categories already in our mind, and we project these onto the world. Okay? So when I look at a bunch of chairs and I notice, and then I say a statement, you know what? All chairs are things that people sit on. What I have done, why we can trust that statement, why that is new information and certain, which is the synthetic a priori statement that Kant is looking for. Why that is certain is because my mind is projecting space, concepts of space and time, the concepts of unity, plurality, totality, and also my mind is also projecting onto these physical things that I see out here, whatever they happen to be, also projecting this idea of universality. Okay, so I'm making a universal judgment when I say all chairs are things that people sit on. I am making a universal judgment. The reason I can make that universal judgment, and it has certainty, is because my mind has imposed on the physical reality these categories of the understanding. The category of unity. I already had that in my mind. That's why I said all chairs are things that people sit on, and that has certainty, because I have the category of unity in my mind, and I imposed it on these, whatever these things are out here in the world that look like chairs. Okay? And so when I made the statement has certainty, and it can also be new information, because what am I basing the statement on? Where's the synthetic part? Well, the synthetic part was me looking at all these chairs out here in the world, and therefore I made the statement. So what we have here from Kant is a synthetic a priori statement. Okay, so this statement has certainty, and it also has new information. Okay. Certainty and new information. So, what we have with Kant, there's a lot more to his philosophy, but this is just some of the basic stuff in a nutshell. Okay? What we have with Kant is someone who has accepted the hyperbolic doubt of René Descartes. So they don't trust sense experience. But he is still trying to save the idea that human beings know things for certain. Know what things? Know physical things for certain. He's still trying to save this idea. So how does he save this idea? He tells us that the mind has these categories in it already. So you already got space-time. You have all the ones right here on top of page 528. You have unity, plurality, all this stuff is already in your mind. And you're projecting that on physical things. That's the a priori certain part. The physical things out here is the synthetic part. This is how you get the a priori synthetic judgment. So you have the categories. You're projecting them on this stuff, the synthetic part. So when you make your statement, so you're going to make a statement. The statements is what we care about, the judgments, in other words, because the judgments can be true or false. We want to be able to say statements or propositions or sentences or judgments. We want to say these things and they be true or false, but the true ones have certainty and give new info. So you have these categories in your mind that you're projecting on the world. That's the a priori certain part. And then you have the stuff of the world, whatever it is. That's the synthetic part. And so when you make a statement about the world, it's going to have this part and it's going to have this part. That's why you're going to get the a priori. Remember, a priori is analytic. Synthetic judgment. You're going to get the a priori synthetic sentence or judgment or proposition. Okay? One of the big problems that people are going to notice about this philosophy that Kant is giving us here is that he doesn't trust his sense experience. So these things out here, what are they? He still doesn't know what these are. We still don't know what these are for certain, because your mind is projecting these categories onto these things, whatever they are, and then we're making these a priori synthetic judgments. But the main problem is we still don't know what these are. What are these things right here? This chair and this. We're making judgments. So the weakest part of the philosophy is you're making all these judgments, but you really can't say that you know what this table is. I mean, does that seem kind of odd to you, maybe? Does that seem like realistic? That you're making a lot of sentences and judgments, but I mean, do you really think you don't know what the table is? Do you really think you don't know what the marker, this eraser is, right? Oh, you probably don't know because you can't see that too good. But do you really think that you don't know what your hand is? Do you not know what this marker is? Okay, so we're still left with that. With Kant's philosophy, you're still left with this idea that you don't know just the things that are around you. And the problem with that is if you can't say you know what your hand is, or you know this is a marker, if you can't say that stuff, then what can you say? So you can make all these great claims about mathematics and science, but you can't say you know for sure what this marker is? You see, this is a problem with the philosophy. This is still the problem with Hume, with Kant, with René Descartes. We are still left with the problem of not knowing for sure what these physical things are that we see around us. Okay? And the next philosopher, Nietzsche, he is going to, he's going to draw the logical conclusion from this stuff. Okay? Based on this idea that we don't really know. We're human beings that don't really know. Okay?